Olá, tudo bem? I'm Emma from Portuguese Language Lessons. Here I've got a really useful video for you about the imperfeito, this past tense. I'm going to talk you through how to make it and the contrast with the normal past tense, the PPI. And this is really for people who are English speakers, because we as English speakers have incredible difficulty with this. Okay, so how do I make the imperfeito? This is one of my favorite tenses for making because it's so easy to make. So for all the verbs that are AR verbs, that's 85% of the verbs pretty much in the language, we put ava, take off the AR at the end and put ava. And then it's very predictable the way it goes through the conjugations. With the two forms, got an S, naj has got maj, and the last one's got an M at the end. So some examples: acabava, dava, estava, falávamos, tomavam. Notice the accent on the A for the naj form. For ER and IR verbs, they look quite different, don't they? You're putting ia this time on the end. And again, really predictable through the forms. Some examples: abria, comias, pedia, partíamos, queriam. Okay. Few notes: IR, ia, to go, is regular but very short. Ia, ias, ia, íamos, iam. That's correct. Don't worry about that being so short. And the verbs cair and sair need accents because of all those vowels together. Okay. There's only 4 irregular verbs. What great news is that? So these are ter becomes tinha, and then it's very predictable going through the conjugations like the others. Ser becomes era, and again very predictable. Vir, vinha, and por, punha. Not so common, that last one. Okay, so in terms of what you've got to memorize, it's really not a massive job. And you come across these verbs a lot. You see them if you're reading or listening to spoken Portuguese. Let's look at some examples of when we use this for talking about the past tense. What are the imperfect verbs here, and what do the sentences mean? So, quando era pequena, brincava com as minhas bonecas. Here we've got era and brincava. Okay. When I was small, I used to play with my dolls. Antigamente, as pessoas viajavam menos nas férias. So here we've got viajavam. In the old days, people travelled less in the holidays. A casa onde nasci era pequena, mas tinha lindo jardim. So here we've got era and tinha. The house where I was born was small, but had a beautiful garden. Chovia muito e o vento estava forte. So here we've got chovia and estava. It rained a lot, it was raining a lot, and the wind was strong. Quando tu saíste, eu estava a falar com o diretor. When you left, I was talking to the director. See, here we've got estava a falar. So we can also make this tense in 2 verb forms with estava, a, and then the verb in the infinitive. Very nice. When you left, I was talking to the director. Quando eu tinha 16 anos, fui à Alemanha. When I was 16 years old, I went to Germany. So here we've got tinha as the imperfeito verb. And then the last one, eram 11:30 quando a aula começou. It was 11:30 when the lesson started. So here we've got eram as the imperfeito verb there. Okay, so when do we use this imperfeito? It is when we're talking about imperfect time, i.e. within the time frame we are talking about, the action that we are using the imperfeito verb with is incomplete. We do not see the complete action. So, some uses of the imperfeito: to talk about habitual actions in the past. So this is very similar to used to. So like in A and B, When I was small, I used to play with my dolls. People used to travel less. To describe continual states in the past, things that were how things were, not actions. I can see, era pequena, tinha lindo jardim. Background actions to a story or another main actions, like D. Chovia muito, o vento estava forte. Describe something that was happening when another action interrupted it. So eu estava a falar, so that was going on. Talking about age and time in the past. These are imperfeito. Okay. Note that for habitual actions, like examples A and B, we can use costumava and the verb in the infinitive instead of the main verb. That's a very nice shortcut to avoid having to work with our main verb. And for actions, we can use estava a and the infinitive instead of the main verb in the imperfeito in situations like 3 or 4 background actions and things that were happening. Okay, again, another good shortcut. Okay, let's look at the two past tenses together. If we're comparing it to the PPI, the perfeito. Match these beginnings and endings. Quando era pequeno, is it ele comeu muitos bolos or ele comia muitos bolos? It's ele comia. He ate. This was ongoing. It wasn't just a start and stop action that is completed within this sentence. It goes on. Whereas ontem, ele comeu muitos bolos. I'm thinking about the entirety of all of the cakes that he ate in yesterday. Ele comeu muitos bolos. Okay. Let's look at these example sentences. Would you put the perfeito or the imperfeito form of the verbs here? Okay. In both verbs in each sentence, they're the same tense here. And what are the clue words and phrases that help you to choose the tense? So in number 1, it's going to be the imperfeito because I'm talking about when he was at school. I'm not talking about one particular time. I'm not talking about one particular thing that happened. It was repeated, it went on, it was ongoing. So I will say, ele praticava desporto quando andava na escola. In Deutsch, here, what do you think? O que acham? Here I've got the word sempre, always. So this gives me the idea again of repetition, ongoing, not just a one-off event. So again, I'll use imperfeito. Chegava porque tinha. Okay. Now in 3. Na semana passada, what do you think? O que acham? This is going to be perfeito. Na semana passada, I'm talking specifically about last week, and one thing that we did last week, it was completed within that time. Nós fomos à praia e descansamos. And 4. Again, o que acham? We've got here, naquele dia, on that day, a specific day, something happened specifically. So this is perfeito. Eu consegui chegar a horas, arrive on time, porque me levantei muito cedo. I put the me forward because of the porquê. Okay. Okay? Is that helpful? Ajuda? So now let's continuar. We can make sentence talking about a specific action in either tense sometimes, but the emphasis of meaning is different. So look, vimos o filme ontem à noite. We watched the film last night, all of it. I'm thinking about the whole watching the film. Or I could say, estávamos a ver o filme ontem à noite às 22 horas. We were watching the film last night at 10:30. We were in the middle of doing a certain point of time and thinking about that moment in time, not the whole of last night. Okay? So, either I'm thinking about the whole thing, so that's vimos, or I'm thinking about a point in time. Estávamos a ver. We can do the same in English here. I watched a film last night. We were watching a film last night. Okay, slightly different emphasis. And then we can mix the two tenses in one sentence. The imperfeito is the longer action that's interrupted, not completed. Often we'll choose the estava form here. And the PPI, perfeito, for the action that interrupts and is completed. Estava a ler livro, o telefone tocou. So the book reading was interrupted, not completed. It started prior to the beginning of the sentence. O telefone tocou. The phone rang. That is a completed action in the sentence. Okay, and when we're deciding, should it be perfeito or imperfeito? If we really can't decide, it's much easier to decide on the reason for the verb going into the preterite, the perfeito, than it is to pinpoint the reason for why it goes into the imperfeito. Why? For the PPS, the situation has a clear beginning and end within the sentence, okay, within the phrase that we're talking about. Of course, everything has got beginnings and endings. Don't extrapolate. We're just talking about the sentence. So things like, cheguei agora mesmo. Saí de casa e não encontrei o meu carro. Andei pela rua toda e não vi o meu carro. Telefonei para a polícia. So, specific actions that happened completely in those sentences. For the imperfeito, the situation was ongoing before and or after the sentence started and finished. It spills out beyond the sentence. Estavas a mim a esperar muito tempo? Were you waiting for me for a long time? The waiting was going on before. O carro estava na rua ao lado. The car was parked. This isn't an action, notice. It's a state, situation. Não havia lugar na minha rua. There was no place in my road. A casa era grande. The house was big. Okay. And another massive clue is there are a lot of verbs that prefer one tense or the other due to the nature of their meaning. Some verbs that prefer the imperfeito that describe how things are, or things that how the way you feel, etc. Estar, dever, precisar, morar, costumar. They really, more than 85% of the time, will be in the imperfeito. And verbs that prefer to be in the perfeito are verbs like decidir, publicar, falecer, detectar, contactar. These verbs are really about specific things that happened. And there's a few that sit on the fence. Ser, vir, falar, encontrar, chamar, conhecer, sentir. These, due to their meaning, could go either way. Top tip, if you're in doubt, use the imperfeito. Do not translate from English to work out, and you will get better at working out which is which the more you read stories, narratives in Portuguese. Another top tip for English native speakers is the imperfeito translated to English can be the ing form for action, so was doing, etc. And in English, according to the grammar rules of English, we will rarely use an ing form continuous in many verbs because the grammar doesn't let us do that. However, in Portuguese, all verbs can be in the imperfeito tense. There's no exceptions. That's what Portuguese is like. So if we're coming from English, we have more difficulty with certain verbs in the imperfeito because it sounds and feels wrong. So in English, to say, I was knowing the answer, I was hearing a noise over there, he was being happy, does sound very strange. But in Portuguese, sabia a resposta, ouvia barulho ali, estava contente, that's all fine. So, what are these verbs in English that we can pay attention to? Because these are the ones we might find tricky. Verbs of mental and emotion states: believe, doubt, feel, have an opinion, imagine, know, like, dislike, hate, prefer, realize, recognize, remember, see, understand, suppose, think when you're having an opinion. understand, want, wish. Verbs of senses: appear, hear, look, see, seem, taste, smell and taste. Communicating, causing reactions: agree, astonish, deny, disagree, impress, mean, please, promise, satisfy and surprise. And other ones like to be, to belong, to concern, to consist, to contain, deserve, fit, include, involve, lack, matter, measure, the facts, need, owe, own, possess, weigh as a fact. Okay, so you can translate these to Portuguese if you like. So these are things which go on and on. So in English, we don't feel that they can be in the ing form. In Portuguese, they're fine. Okay, so there we go. Hopefully that shed some light on this tricky subject. If you have any questions, get in touch. Okay, alright, ciao ciao.